What are the elements of a successful bid? The whole purpose of bidding work is to win work. Now, we all understand that you can't win every project that you bid on, but how can you increase the likelihood of winning a project? How can you increase your hit rate? That is the topic of my discussion today with my guest, Dave Wagner. Dave is the Vice President of Product Marketing and Partner Development at Stack Construction Technologies. And in our discussion today, we talk about why companies lose on the projects that they bid, what are the key elements of a successful bid, and what's the first area a company can focus on in order to make their bidding more efficient, more accurate, and also more presentable to their clients. We dive into a lot of practical detail here today. If you're looking to improve your hit rate, this episode is for you. And we also have a terrific restaurant recommendation at the end of the show. So enjoy my interview with Dave. Share the interview with other people. Give us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you for listening to Construction Genius today. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Dave, welcome to Construction Genius.
Great, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so the construction game is, in a certain sense, pretty straightforward. You got to bid work, you got to build work, and then you've got to get paid for the work that you do. So today, we're going to talk about the bidding aspect of it. In your experience, why do companies lose on the projects that they bid?
So I think it starts with not picking the right project to bid on in the first place. You're always going to run across a situation where you want to pick jobs that play to your sweet spot, that you feel comfortable that you can do on time and on budget. So that's really the sort of the first element. You've made that decision, you've made that evaluation that, this is a company I want to work with. And then to your point, this is a project I want to work on because it's one I can be successful with. So that's where it starts. Now, then once you've made that commitment that this is the right type of project, then it really comes down to creating the bid that matches what the client is looking for. So not going to lie, the price obviously is going to play a role, but it's not necessarily always the lowest price. It's the price that makes sense. So it is not unusual for a client to use their own estimating tools to get an idea of what they think the bid should look like. So if you bring a bid in that is well underneath what the client believes it's going to be, they're not going to believe you, and they're going to start to question your ability to do it with that type of a budget. Obviously, if you go the opposite extreme and come in way above what they're looking for, you're not likely to win on that as well. So there is that sweet spot that you want to make sure that you hit that is accurate to what you're capable of doing. And it matches the requests that come from the client. And then the third major item is it's about then presenting a proposal, presenting something to your client that it represents your firm's professionalism, that shows off what you can do and explains what you can do in the level of detail necessary for that client to be wowed and really feel comfortable that you're the group that can win the job for them. So if you sort of summarize all that up, a lot of it comes down to confidence. It's confidence that you're creating that bid that you're responding to, that you feel can win, that you can be successful with.
That's interesting because there's kind of two elements to that confidence. There's my confidence as I'm putting the bid out there that I've got the right number and I'm bidding to the right person or the right company. And then there's their confidence that the number I'm presenting is reasonable and accurate and it's presented in such a way so that it is professional, like you said. I'd like to just take you back to the beginning of what you were saying there. Everybody knows that you need to bid to the right clients, but it seems many times, even the most sophisticated construction companies bid projects they shouldn't bid on.
Yeah.
So in your experience, how can a construction company best determine what the right client is for them or the right project type?
Right. So I think it is absolutely critical that when you're deciding what you want to bid on the project, that you analyze the documentation that is associated with the project. And of course, no bid is going to go out. It isn't going to give you the list of the relevant plans to the type of scopes of work that you work on, the specifications, that documentation. And you can't ignore that. That's really the first step in any bid, is reviewing that documentation, and not just the documentation, but making sure you have the current documentation so that you can really step through it. And even if it relates to doing a pre-estimate in a sense, getting a feel for what type of work that's going to be and how closely it aligns to what your company is skilled with.
So that sounds like it takes time and a little bit of discipline.
Absolutely, on both counts.
Many contractors, they're overwhelmed with all the stuff that they've got to do, and they struggle with that discipline part. What's a simple way for a contractor to carve out the time they need and then to begin to assert some of that discipline and that structure so they can take a look at that documentation and make sure it is the right project with the right client?
I think part of it is the core work is going to need to be done sort of regardless of what you do. You've got to carve that time out. But what you can do is find ways to significantly reduce the amount of time you have to carve out to do that analysis and, quite honestly, do the estimate as well. So approximately 60% of the people that we talk with, their current estimating and analysis methods involves hard copy documents, rulers, colored pens and pencils, Excel, and things of this nature. And they work. Absolutely. You can do all the work using those tools. But as you might imagine, it's not terribly efficient, not terribly quick, and the amount of time it takes can be extravagant. So typically, one of the questions we get asked all the time from people looking for a solution is, or the problem that they identify right off the bat is, it's taking me too long. Help me speed up this process. So there are a number of wonderful digital-based tools out on the interweb today that are available that you can go find, and that are going to allow you to do the core parts, the part that makes your job, but eliminate so many of the administrative tasks of getting the hard copies and having to flip through them to find exactly the right document you're looking for, and having to spend endless hours, using a ruler to physically measure things around a square or a circle. There are tools out there that take the part that you know so well, but automate your ability to do it to save you time. And when you're saving time doing that, that's also going to mean that you're going to be able to do a higher quality job, because you're able to really focus on the important things and still spend a lot less time doing it.
Okay, so one of the key elements that really needs to be brought into the picture with regards to winning bids is this idea of speed. And in your mind, the number one thing that slows the process down is that sort of amalgamation of different tools that people are using in order to put a bid together. And there's really a lack of efficiency there. Did I hear that right?
That is correct. The takeoff process is not a fast one.
Right.
It's just a manually intensive piece. So being able to automate that process is huge. And another reason speed is important is, and this is an industry average, but typically a contractor that responds to a bid request is only going to win about 10% of those bids.
Right.
So it's a bit of a volume game. So the more bids you respond to in a professional fashion, of course, the more likely you are to win the jobs that you're looking for. So some of it is just making sure you can respond to all those bids in a timely fashion as well. So it's that sort of time from request to time to bid, and then shrinking how long it takes you to do it. There are sort of two time factors there.
Right. So, okay, that's excellent. Now, you said something earlier that I thought was quite interesting, and that is a bid that makes sense. And sometimes in many bid environments, it's not the lowest price. We're not talking necessarily about a hard bid environment here. We're talking about maybe a negotiated environment. Why is it important in terms of the clients that when you present a bid, it doesn't come across as either way high or way low? What that perception piece? Why does that how does that impact you winning a project when you're presenting to a client?
I think it's all about confidence from the other direction. It's that client that you're talking to have the confidence, you know what you're doing. Any bid that comes in way too low or way too high, that's going to be a warning sign to the person evaluating your bid. It's like, what's going on here? These people may not know what they're doing here based on this bid. I think I need to go look someplace else.
Well, sometimes it's interesting though, because, I can hear people saying, well, I put the bid in, but then I don't really have an opportunity to explain the bid.
Right.
And is that an important element in terms of when I'm working with a company to get the opportunity not only to give my number, but then to be able to talk through the number and explain to people what's going on?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is no different than the interview game, the resume game. Creating your resume, get your foot in the door, and all the goal, to a great degree, the goal is to get that client to say, yes, this interests me, time to have a conversation.
Yeah, interesting. Now, tell me a little bit more about professionalism. Why is professionalism in terms of the presentation so important? Because isn't just the number, let me see it, and we'll go from there.
I think it's a confidence thing as well. Is if I send you something that basically is an Excel spreadsheet that looks like it's been put together in about 5 minutes, am I going to have the confidence that that's the way you're going to do your job as well?
Right.
So when you bring confidence, when you bring professionalism to your work at every step of the way, it gives people that great confidence, that impression that the work you do for them on the project is going to have that same level of professionalism.
Excellent. So just summarize for me real quick as we're moving through the process here. In your mind, what are the key elements of a successful bid?
So we touched upon a number of these already.
Yep.
The first one is making sure it's the bid that you want, that works for your organization, that you're not going to lose money on. So you're not putting it in so low that if they do accept it, you can't make money. Or if you put it in so high, you really have no chance of winning. So that's the first piece of a project you can be successful with. It's incredibly important to be able to do that fast and accurately. People can do things very, very fast, but if it's not accurate, again, you get into those inaccurate bids and we get back to problem number one. Right. So got to be able to do it fast and also create a deliverable, a proposal that can be easily consumed. And from the client's perspective, achieves two things. It answers the questions they have, so it gives the level of detail that they're looking for, and also provides that professionalism we've talked about a few times now, that they feel comfortable that you're the type of company they want to work with.
Excellent. Let me just dive into the accuracy a little bit more. What is the main source of inaccuracy in your experience when it comes to a bid?
I think there's a couple factors. So a bid is to a great degree composed of sort of two major components. There's the takeoff component. Quite simply, it's the measuring and the counting of things.
Yep.
I have to go in and if I'm a painter, how big is the wall that I'm painting? If I'm doing MEP work, how many outlets am I actually installing? So there's an obvious inaccuracy there when those numbers are just wrong. So for instance, it would seem pretty straightforward, but let's say I'm a landscaped architect and I am doing a parking lot that has lots of curved areas. Well, measuring a box, let's be honest, is not terribly difficult. You can get that accurate. But now if you're measuring, imagine a parking lot with curves and arcs and everything like that. And if you basically start measuring it just using a lot of straight lines, that accuracy starts to drift down. And the bigger it is, the more your accuracy starts to go away. So that's the first part, that measuring and counting piece. Yep. And then the second piece, of course, of the accuracy is for what the work you want to do. As you're doing your estimate, you have to make some assignments of what type of items or assemblies, as they're called in the business frequently, do you want to assign to these pieces of work? Yep. What material do I want to use? How much labor is it going to cost me? What's going to be my overhead? What are some non-measured items, delivery fees, and making sure you're incorporating real numbers, accurate numbers, up-to-date numbers that you can stick to and you can work with also has a huge impact on the overall accuracy of the bid.
Okay, excellent. Now, when it comes to the takeoff component, we've all heard the horror stories of, someone does a takeoff and they completely miss X or Y, and then you put the bid in and you win the bid and you come back and you're doing, you're looking at the bid and you're like, oh man, we missed that chunk of the project. What is it about the software that Stack offers that helps with that specifically?
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned that. We actually have a feature in our product that it does an analysis of all those takeoffs that you've done. And as you're then going in and starting to assign the items, the assemblies to those takeoffs to associate the cost, there's actually a big old warning sign that comes up that says, hey, you've got some takeoffs out here you've done, and you've assigned no cost to these. So we don't come right out and put it on the screen, but we're really telling you, you're giving away this for free, this work. This is not a good idea. So it provides that intelligence that is able to, sort of help you analyze as you're doing your work to make sure those types of things aren't missed.
Okay, so basically, what one of the elements of the software that you offer is to sort of mitigate the human element,
yep,
as much as possible when it comes to the takeoff aspect. Now, so in order to get that accuracy, though, there is a requirement, or there's a necessity that the information that you put into the system is accurate. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if I'm going to estimate my next project well, it means that I need the information from my current projects to be accurate.
Right.
So what is, in your experience, some best practices that contractors use to make sure that their information is current and up to date and accurate from the projects that they're working on at the moment?
So a lot of it is, as we talked about very early on, is making sure that you can capture the document information that you're using to create your bid from the client that you're working with. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a number of different ways that you may get that information. It could come through an ITB request, but more and more what we're seeing are these solutions that are out there that essentially allow you to go out and access the project details, the project documents. They're typically called plan rooms. They're called project news sites. And there are a bunch of great ones out here that I'm sure your audience is probably already familiar with. Mm-hmm. But what you want is your estimating system to work with those solutions.
Right.
You want to, because those are sort of that's that single source of truth for the latest information. So your client is making sure that information is being posted out there. What you don't want to have to do, certainly this would be the case with paper, is the day you print it, you run the risk that document's out of date. So right. Having to go back out and reprint it or even download it and then forget about it, you run the risk that a new rev comes out, another version of the documentation is released and you don't see it and you're making a bid off an old set of documents, which is worse than nothing at all, because now you run the risk of actually building against an older project or older project documents. Now you have to actually do rework to rip it out and then rebuild it because you used the wrong docs. So this starts to, flow into the whole construction side of the business as well. But it's important, even during the estimating portion, to make sure that you have access to all the latest documents as seamlessly as possible.
Okay.
And that you can easily find those documents as easily as possible.
Excellent. Let me go to the presenting part, the quality of the proposal, because this is construction, right? So we want to get out there and we want to build stuff and we want to make some money, but we know in the back of our heads that, making it look pretty, at least to begin with, is pretty important. What do you think are the key elements of a proposal in terms of the presentation aspect? Give me a couple of those key elements.
Well, I think for starters, you want to make sure that it is geared specifically to the people that you're giving it to. So okay. It's got, if you want to put their logos on it, you want to make sure it's addressed to their folks. So part of it is just making it feel like it's their proposal, because, we know how this works, especially in the world today. A subcontractor could get the same request from 5, 10, more than a dozen different general contractors, all right. Asking them to bid. Now, the truth is, in all likelihood, they're going out and creating that estimate once because it's the same project. Right. But how they present that information back to the individual folks, that may change a little bit. So making sure that it meets not only a look and feel that is appropriate to that client, as I just mentioned, but also its level of detail they're looking for. Some people may just be looking for a summary of the high level details and the cost. Other people may want to see all the details that are borne out in the estimate, and they want that as part of their proposal. So understanding who you're working with and what they're looking for in a response and meeting that really is part of the professionalism.
That's excellent. So that's a key thing right there, because you stated it well. I just want to restate it. Different clients have different requirements. And so you want to be able to customize your proposal for that particular client, not just by throwing their logo in there, but by understanding the level of detail that they want and presenting it in the way that they want it.
Well said. Yep.
Okay, so I want to win more work. My hit rate's not where it's at. I need a little bit of more accuracy. I want to get those bids out quickly. I want to make sure they look professional. What's the first area someone should focus on fixing in their bidding process, in your experience?
I think it's creating a infrastructure that your company can use to get this thing done quickly and accurately. Because what that's going to allow you to do is bid more. And assuming that you're creating a great bid, it's typically a percentage game in many cases. So that's going to allow you to win more jobs. So I think that's to a great degree where things start. It's around efficiency. It's creating a more efficient process around your bidding, which is going to help you increase your volumes of bids. It is not unrealistic at all to expect that you would be able to increase your overall bid efficiency by anywhere between 30 to well over 100%, depending on your current processes.
Okay.
And what we found is that companies that take on solutions like ours have increased their overall bottom line. Now, granted, there's a lot that plays into that, but based on that extra win, based on bringing the people in to do the work, but as a leverage point, typically between 30 and 35%.
Okay, so let's talk about that efficient process. Tell me a little bit more about Stack and how Stack contributes to that efficient process.
Right. So Stack is really has three primary elements that and we've talked about all of them in some detail already. The first one is making sure you get access to all the right documents, making sure we tie to those plan rooms and those project news sites to make sure you're getting the most current documents, or you can just bring them in off of a set of attachments that were sent to you via email. But we allow you to bring those in, and we turn stupid documents into intelligent documents. So a stupid document is just like reading through a book. You have to go through it page by page. But what we do is index them so that you can do a full text search. So you can hyperlink the callouts to jump between the documents that are relevant to each other, so that you can automatically search on a document number or name, because we scrape that right off the document when we bring it in and make that searchable. So the first step is making sure you can find the document as quickly as possible. So why does that make you more efficient? It's search time. The average construction professional, from a study from FHA that came out in 2018, basically said they spend approximately 5.5 hours every week just searching for document information, not doing anything with it, just trying to find it. Well, from an estimator's perspective, their average 5.5 hours, that's a lot of what this is. It's finding the right document to determine if they're going to bid, and then determine and actually create the bid, create that estimate response. So that's step one. Step two, it's the takeoff process. It's automating to make sure that you can do your linears, your areas, your drop-down electricals, your roofing with different pitches, your arcs that we talked about earlier, making sure you have all the tools that are necessary to very quickly and efficiently do all your counts, auto counts, and do all of your takeoffs to get all those quantities measured. And then the third part, of course, is now associating that with the items and assemblies that you define your labor and define the materials that you're going to use. We automate that process as well. And I guess there really is a fourth part, is then taking that estimate and allowing you to create custom proposals and quotes that you can send out to the people that have requested the bid. So we really try to take you from soup to nuts through that estimating process. And as I mentioned, you could save anywhere from 30 to 100% of the time you're currently taking, depending on your current method.
Excellent. So how can folks get in touch with you?
So I would strongly recommend they visit our website. It is www.stackct.com, construction technology. Visit us there to learn a lot more about the product, but you will find all sorts of buttons that allow you to request a demonstration. And ultimately, that's my real push, would be have one of our professionals at Stack talk to you about your specific situation and how we can help around your specific needs.
Okay. And so tell me, in your mind, which types of customers have you had the most success with? Which types of contractors have you guys had the most success with?
Yeah, we're so at a high level, subcontractors, and we do have a system that will really work with pretty much every subcontractor out there. However, with that said, roofers, painters, anyone doing interiors in general, those are concrete, structural, steel work, to a certain degree, landscaping, anyone that is sort of in these core trades is where we really have focused the highlight of our product around.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Dave, I really appreciate you joining me. Where are you out of, by the way?
So Stack is located in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then we have a number of us like myself spread throughout the United States.
Okay, so where are you actually physically located right now as we're talking?
Physically, I am in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, right. So we're visiting Phoenix, Arizona. Let's say we're going down there to watch the Giants play the Diamondbacks. What's the one restaurant we should hit when we're in Phoenix?
So I'm going to give you a group of restaurants. So we have a group in here called the Fox restaurants that are absolutely, every one of them phenomenal. From their Mexican, Blanco, to their hamburger joint, Zen Burger, to some of their more upscale restaurants like their Italian joint North. But it doesn't matter where you are in the greater Phoenix, Scottsdale area, you can find it. If you find a Fox restaurant, you cannot lose. So for our visitors coming in, especially come March when we have Cactus League, I would highly recommend giving them a try.
Excellent. All right. So we're going to put a link in the show notes to the Fox restaurants. And Dave, I really, really appreciate you joining us here. This has been a very, very helpful interview in terms of those key aspects of a successful bid. And we're going to put a link in the show notes to all the customer success stories that you have on your website, and also the links in terms of getting in touch with you guys.
Thank you very much, Eric. Very much appreciate your time.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Construction Conclave. If you as a construction leader would like to develop your skills and get involved in a community of like-minded construction professionals who are focused on building healthy teams, profitable projects, and long-term successful businesses, then the Construction Conclave is for you. It's a private, invitation-only group of construction leaders that are focused on developing their leadership skills. We do training every single month online that looks at how to become a better leader in a very practical, straightforward way. We also have other events that build community and camaraderie so that you can associate with others who are interested in developing their skills as leaders. If you'd like more information and to see if you qualify for participating in the conclave, feel free to reach out to me, eric@ericanderton.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and thanks again for listening.